Well, we've often talked about truck drivers having impossible schedules and getting very low pay because they have to unload and load their trucks and quite often wait to get unloaded at various loading docks, and that's not necessarily included in their timetable, which puts a lot of pressure on them. It seems, according to the Transport Workers Union, that it's not just the truckies. In the case of Wollongong, they are claiming that it's the bus drivers that are under the gun, that the Gong Shuttle service has got a timetable which is not really in keeping with passenger safety, and that they claim that management are pushing their drivers to keep to the timetable at the expense of potential passenger safety. Nick McIntosh is the local delegate for the Illawarra Transport Workers Union, and he joins me now. G'day, Nick. How are you going?
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I wouldn't have thought the Gong Shuttle would have a timetable as such, because it's just this continuous circuit and you just wait for one. But what is the reality of the timetable?
Yeah, it's one of those myths I hear a bit, actually. The drivers definitely have a timetable. They just like any other route, every few minutes they're told they must stop at a particular spot, and they must follow that. And unfortunately, because the government sets this timetable and it's done it without properly consulting the company and all the drivers, in many cases it's an impossible timeline to meet. Okay,
well, so what sort of timetable are these bus drivers getting? What's the problem with it?
Well, the problem is this. Somewhere between about 40 and 50 minutes they need to complete the circuit in. And, of course, the issue becomes, well, when you got to remember the shuttle obviously is going through the busiest parts of Wollongong, so all you need is a little bit of traffic somewhere, or to be going through a school zone at that particular time of the day, or to pick up a whole lot of passengers at the university or drop a whole lot off there, and suddenly the whole timetable just goes out of whack. So what's happening, of course, and this is a bigger problem, it would be one thing if you could just run a couple of minutes late here and there, but the problem is that the government has told every bus company in New South Wales, including companies down here, that they have to meet 95% on-time running schedules. And if they don't meet these 95% on-time running schedules, then the company gets fined, and if they do it enough, they could potentially lose the contract. So, of course, the company doesn't want that to happen, as you can imagine. And their advice to drivers then is, well, if you can't do it, just miss a stop or just drop passengers off but don't pick anybody up. So it's kind of this, it's like that ABC show Utopia, where the government set this 95% on-time running schedule. Everybody, they're going to be saying, how good's this? We've achieved 95% on-time running. But the reality is that drivers either have to drive unsafely to reach it, or they've just got to miss stops. So someone can be sitting at a bus stop for a minute waiting for a late bus normally, or in this case, they might have to sit there and wait for 10 minutes while a bus goes past them. So it's not achieving on-time running at all.
Okay. When you say they're driving dangerously, we'll get back to some of these other issues in a minute, but what does that mean, driving dangerously?
Well, it just means that they're having to not take the same sort of care that they would otherwise like to take between stops. So if they know that they're running 30 seconds or a minute late, it means that they might have to sort of rush passengers on and off the bus. And I don't mean that they're going to obviously take off if someone's halfway through the door, but they're also possibly taking a couple more risks than they otherwise would by pulling out from a stop at times that might not always be safe, and just little bits and pieces like that.
Okay, how do they monitor their on-time running? Do they have an onboard computer which says you should be at this stop here on Kira Street now?
Well, the company has a depot that they're able to phone in to the driver and say, you are running X time late, or...
Okay, so they've got some sort of satellite system where they can see where all the buses are?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Now, what about this stopping or not stopping to pick up passengers? They're actually told to not stop, to miss a stop, which just takes the whole concept of the Gong Shuttle, it undermines it completely.
Well, that's exactly right. And as I said, to me, it's like something out of that show Utopia, where, the government just says you must reach 95% on-time running, and the company says, well, we have to reach it or we're going to get fined. And in some cases, if a bus is running late, the only way to conceivably get to the end of the line on time is to drive straight past the stop or only drop passengers off and not pick anybody up, even if the bus is half full.
It seems to me that the Transport New South Wales can't stick to a 95% on-time running schedule for their own trains, and we know that in years past they've just changed the definition of on-time running to make themselves look a bit better. Would it be fair to say that private companies are treated much more harshly than some of the transport that's run by the state?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair comment, Nick. I mean, and this is what the problem is, and this is what companies, and not just in Wollongong, but in Sydney are telling us as well, is that, look, we understand the problems with this system. The problem is that the government's at the top of the supply chain. They're setting the timetable, and they're basically saying meet it or otherwise. And as you said, because the government, I suppose, is able to then blame somebody else because it's not them, say, running the trains or something, that's what tends to happen. So it is a ridiculous situation that the government can't simply just sit there and say, we're going to 95% on-time running and here's the timetable and go and meet it. They need to sit down with us in the company and work out what's feasible. No, I mean, obviously we want to hit 95% on-time running, but it's got to be actually achievable. It can't just be here's a set of numbers and go and reach them. Otherwise, this is going to happen more and more in other routes in Wollongong as well.
Okay. In Wayne Forno's statement, who's the State Secretary of the TWU, he says companies have tendered below cost to win contracts that are impossible to carry out safely. Why would a bus company tender with a contract that's going to lose them money?
Well, what tends to happen in a lot of these situations, Nick, is that companies will, you've got to remember they've already spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on all the equipment, on buses, on hiring out the depot and everything. So all the infrastructure's there now. They, in some cases, will say to themselves, we're prepared to cop a loss for the first couple of years of the contract, with the hope that if we do everything right, come third and fourth and later years, we should be able to just about break even, because it's going to cost them so much money if they totally lose the contract, have to sell all the buses, the depots, pay everybody redundancies, that in some cases it's better for them just to make a loss for a couple of years and hope that they can make it up later on.
Right, okay, I understand. All right, Nick McIntosh, good to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
Nick McIntosh, local delegate for the Transport Workers Union. We have spoken to Premier Illawarra, one of the companies that runs buses in the Illawarra, and they don't wish to make a comment.